Today, we have a very special guest. Our guest speaker today is Jan Wong. He's a founder and online strategist. His title will be Build and Grow Your Personal Brand. Before I call upon him, I'd like to read his biodata. Before I read, I got to tell you it's the first time I received three types of bio. One is 25 words, one is 50 words, and one is full bio. Jen, but the bio is so good,
Choice.
I've decided to read the full bio. All right.
Wow. Okay,
Yes, I
wow.
am
All right.
going to.
That's the first
I
as
read
well.
all three.
Sure.
Yeah, 25 words, 50 words, and the full bio. So I'm going to read the full one. Yeah, right. Jen Wong
Okay.
is an entrepreneur, young advocate, and founder of Open Minds, 8-year bootstrapped, data-driven MarTech company based in Kuala Lumpur, Singapore, and Hong Kong. Starting at the age of 17, he has ventured into 8 businesses, a part-time lecturer at Asia Pacific University, UPIT, a certified e-commerce consultant, published an academic journal during his master's degree, sits on the academic advisory board of KDU, Sunway College, and Sunway University. In 2020, he was also offered a scholarship to pursue a PhD with Monash University. Through his passion, Jan founded Open Minds in 2012 that serves as a MarTech firm to provide strategic solutions, data analysis, technology development, consultancy, and training program, and a venture division to also assist startups. Venture division has also seen the birth of startups such as CLOVR, a virtual reality tech startup, Round Up, a data analytical startup, and Open Academy, an education and training platform in 2019. Having bootstrapped from zero and being a new player in the industry, Open Minds managed to acquire world class brands and renowned agencies as clients, and in 2017, set up a subsidiary in Hong Kong after placing the Kazakhstan office in hiatus in 2015 due to the declining oil and gas outlook. Within just 4 years, OpenMind has grown to a valuation of USD 5 million and is featured as a company with one of the best workplace culture in Malaysia. His entrepreneurial experience also enabled him to work with different startups and the opportunity to speak at various entrepreneurship and marketing technology events in universities, corporations, workshops, and conferences in the region of over 5,000 packs in attendance, and also spoken in more than 150 stages globally. He is also a mentor for multiple startup communities, including TechStars Global and the Next 50 Singapore Initiative, and a corporate innovation mentor for Nestle and Vinda Group in Malaysia. Jen has also been featured on various media such as The Star, Focus Malaysia, Personal Money, Malaysia, SME, The Age, Astro, Asian Entrepreneur Magazine, Forbes, and more on his entrepreneurship journey, digital media expertise, and the SME industry. Jen is also a regular contributor on BFM, a two-time TEDx speaker, recognized as one of the top 10 new generation businessmen to watch in 2020, listed on Forbes 30 under 30 Asia 2017 list, and recently published his first book on building your digital net worth. Ladies and gentlemen, we give you Jen Wong.
Thank you so much for the very kind introduction. I never actually sat down and heard somebody read the full version of the bio like that, like literally on live and just read out word for word. Thank you so much. Every time when I read through that and when I hear that, I'm so humbled to have opportunities to be able to be where I am today. Because to be very honest with you, I always tell some people around me that I'm actually an accidental entrepreneur. I did not plan for it. I did not grow up having this entrepreneurial spirit saying that, hey, I want to become entrepreneur. I want to become a business owner. That wasn't my intention from the very beginning. In fact, what set me on the path of entrepreneurship was merely just me wanting to have this additional line on my CV to set me apart from other candidates that may be pursuing a career in the corporate world. That was all my honest intention. But what did I not realize was that the moment I started putting my hands on entrepreneurship, one thing led to another. I fell in love with the process. I started all these different companies in different industries, whether it's fashion, whether it's tech. I've been there, done that, and ultimately right now at Open Minds. It's been quite a long journey, very challenging, but I think one of the few things that got me excited about the journey is obviously the process, the starting up, getting partners, seeing how the company rise, seeing how the company fall at sometimes as well. But I think one thing that kept me going was the fact that I enjoyed the process of building my own brand. Not just me personally, but also for the company, and how I'm able to blend marketing and technology together. Now, some of you may not know, but I actually came from an IT background. I'm a programmer by training. If you were to tell me back then that, hey, Jen, one day you'll be a TEDx speaker, one day you make the Forbes list, I'll tell you that you're crazy, you're insane, please go back to dreamland. I would have never imagined that, because I'm literally just a geek behind the screens, typing, being very comfortable, just being a keyboard warrior, typing and building websites and all of that. But through this, I realized that, hey, there is a lot more fulfillment in seeing how I can bring technology, the world of technology and marketing together to see how this can help a lot more people. And that's the state of where we are here today. I think in the last 1.5 years in this COVID season, you've probably experienced the rise and the adoption of technology like never before. I say that by very simply giving you an example of my parents. Prior to 2020, 2019 and the years before, they were one of the few that were very hesitant in buying online, in putting their credit cards into their e-wallets to spend digitally. You know, they still are the type that wants to see the product, they want to give you the credit card, put in their PIN, Visa Wave is too dangerous, let's not go there. Physical PIN, swipe through, gives them the assurance. But in these 1.5 years, if I could give them a certification, I would, because I would certify them as professionals in Lazada and Shopee shopping. Like literally every other week, there are parcels coming in and they're using e-wallets, they are shopping online, they are browsing digital content like never before. And research has also shown that this 1.5 years of this pandemic has actually fast-tracked marketing technology 5 years into the future. This means, although we are in 2021, we are technically living in the world of digital marketing in 2025. That's why we see such an increase of adoption of technology, so many increase of users and new platforms making mainstream in this 1.5 years. Facebook grew 2 times, insane. Instagram grew 16 times, even more insane. TikTok from 200 million became 800 million in 2020, just within months. Just a couple of weeks ago, Clubhouse was launched, and just a couple of days, millions of users flocked to Clubhouse, being just an audio sharing platform. And that's how crazy they are today, but at the same time, so exciting. But today I want to spend some time talking to you about branding, how you can leverage on some of these things that's happening around us for your company, for you personally, or even for your future career, whatever it may be. Entrepreneurship or non-entrepreneurship, really, entrepreneurship to me, it's more of a mindset than rather starting a company or building a business. This means that you can still be an entrepreneur while working for somebody else. And whether you're a business owner or not, your personal brand or your company's brand is still equally important. Why do I say that? Simple. What comes to your mind when I actually start talking about, let's say, your next vacation? Where would you want your next vacation to be? Have you thought about that? I know right now we are all in lockdown. It's a very tricky time for all of us. But have you actually wondered where would your next vacation actually be at? Have you thought about that before? What about I talk about your car? What car would get you excited at this point of time? When I talk about phone, which brand comes to mind? When I talk about fast food, what comes to mind? Luxury items, fitness brands, what gets you excited? The fact of the matter is that a lot of times when we talk about categories and topics of things, all of us as individuals, as consumers, actually have our own passion or interest or what we call tilt. Meaning that if I am a fan of McDonald's, when you mention fast food, naturally McDonald's will come into my mind because of certain perception that these brands have left with us that somehow convince us that, hey, this thing, this brand relates to us, this product speaks to us, this service speaks to us. It's because that some of these brands that we love or the brands that we follow have actually curated a perception. One very interesting thing about technology and digital marketing today is that consumers probably don't realize this, but do you know that brands are making you see what you want to see? Like literally, whatever that you see on the screen is not accidental. It's planned. There's no such thing as destiny that you're browsing through Facebook and then somehow this new watch appears or this new restaurant appears and then you look at it and say, wow, yes, this is the place I want to go. This is the furniture I want to buy. This is the new place I want to take my vacation to. This is the next thing that I want on my bucket list. Things that we see right now online are all curated, and brands are fighting for attention, trying to curate this perception that, hey, my brand, if you talk about safety, that's me, nobody else. My brand, if you talk about design, like Apple, right? They always talk about design. Some brands focus on quality. Some brands focus on prestige. Some focus on pricing and value. Some focus on experience. If you come and enjoy, this is the experience you can get with me, not anywhere else. Some focus on relatability, some on function. But the crux of the matter here is that every brand actually spends time curating the experience around you so that there's certain perceived value. And that's the keyword to branding. Why I say that? Because as a consumer, we actually go through a few phases in our minds. Before we make a purchase decision, we are actually influenced by a few things, as you can see on screen right now. We are framed, and this curation is framed within our mind through these four things, one being the environment that we grew up with, who we mix with, the content that we consume, how we grow up in terms of our lifestyle in the logical aspect, the education system that trains us, the people that's placed around us, the emotions that we feel by whatever that interests us or hurts us or make us feel motivated or inspired, or even technology in itself. Technology, the type of devices, the type of channels, the type of apps that you use also defines who you are. I was just browsing through the chat right before we start today, right? And then someone shared her Twitch account, right? So when she talked about the Twitch account, immediately some people say, oh, are you a gamer? Now, why did that perception come to be? Is it because that you are Twitch, 100% you're a gamer? Well, in this case, she is. But for many people, Twitch can be a very reliable platform to also do casting because the frame rates, the supported frame rates are higher, much more compared to Zoom and all the other webinar-based platforms. But there's a perception that, hey, if you're on Twitch, you are a gamer. Why? Because Twitch is a technology that associates itself with games, or rather, it is a brand that created this perception that, hey, if you're a gamer, you have to be on Twitch. That's how all these platforms, all these brands try to position themselves, and they do it for good reasons. Because they want to stand out, they want to showcase that they are a certain status, and ultimately, they want to increase brand recall. That's why it's important. Let's look at some brands, okay? Some of you may know this brand, this watch brand called Daniel Wellington. Now, it's a very interesting brand, and I always talk about Daniel Wellington because many years ago when it first came out, they are literally just a knockoff brand. You know, if you look at some of the earlier interviews, even the founders themselves actually admit that that watch that they created basically is an OEM in a China factory. Very low cost, but somehow they managed to position it right now today into a fashion icon where the ambassadors representing them are top stars, including the Kardashian family. How did they achieve it? Very simple, branding through Instagram. That's all. All they did was to position their brand in the minds of their target audience, which was the millennials, showing them like, hey, how nice, how cool, how amazing this product will look like on your wrist. They talk about style, they talk about versatility, and people buy. And then you have a local brand here in Malaysia called Oxwhite. Now, Oxwhite is a good friend of mine, and I always like talking to them as well, because literally, if you look at their products, if you go to their website today, or if you remember, some of you may have heard of them when they first launched their first product, it was just a plain white shirt, like just a white shirt. The thing is that white shirts are not a new invention, all right? I mean, you know that white shirts are like classic items. It has been around so many different options, but this bunch of people managed to sell thousands of shirts just within 3 hours upon launch. Why? It's about branding, right? When you think about it, what is the value? What is the perception that they gave upon launch? Very simple. CK as the founder basically sat down and said that, hey, I'm going to tell a story behind this white shirt. Other brands don't. Other brands just talk about, oh, it's just quality, it's just this, you pay this price, that's it, we are branded, full stop. But CK took time to sit down and say, hey, there's a story behind it. Let's talk about how we source these shirts, how we pick the right white color, how do we price them, where is it made, how are we able to bring the price down, why does it fit the average Malaysian sizes, why? They told a story and it rose to fame and they're doing well until today. Then you also have another brand called Casper in the US. Basically, they sell mattress. The mattress industry is one of the oldest industries on earth, simply because they sell beds. That's it, right? But even a mattress manufacturing company could recently IPO at a valuation of 1.1 billion US dollars. How crazy is that? All they did was, of course, the innovation of how mattresses could be. But if you look at how they market themselves, they don't just position themselves as a mattress company. If you go on Spotify, you actually see Casper running their own playlist, a music playlist. They actually curate content surrounding good sleep and all of these things to position themselves different so that they're not just another mattress company. They're actually a well-being company that helps you sleep better so that you can live a longer life. Storytelling, branding, perception. But ultimately, what are they selling? Mattress. That's it. Why am I telling you some of these stories is because through my life as an entrepreneur as well, although I would like to think that I'm not so old, but through my lifetime as an entrepreneur, through my journey, I found that there's so many interesting stories, not just 3 of them, even with the clients that I work with regionally. All you need is to just trigger a few points from your audience mind, and you are then able to convince them of whether the product is great or not great. What makes a brand stands out is not about how bold they are, how much money they spend on advertising. So if you are here this evening, this afternoon, and you're thinking that, hey, I want to learn how to do advertising on social media, sorry, this is not the right platform, because branding is not so much about placing advertisements. Why I say that is because I'm sure you've seen there's so many advertisements, but why are you not buying from them? Because it just does not resonate. It's not speaking your language. The value does not resonate with you. The brand does not speak to you. Basically, it's just pictures, at least to you. That's why it's not working. That's why when we talk about branding, although perception is at its forefront, we always associate branding with credibility. Ultimately, a brand is not judged by the number of advertisements that it's giving. It's not judged by whether it has a nice logo using the right colors, whether the website looks great, the app looks great, good UI, UX. Now, all these are good to have. I'm not saying that they're completely lousy and not important. They play a role, but ultimately, to build a good brand comes down to how credible you are. And how do you determine this credibility? That's what I'm going to share with you in the remaining time I have with you this evening. I'm going to talk about what I call the credibility triangle, which is what that you can see on screen right now. The credibility triangle has 3 points, talking about the importance of building a perception in your brand, the importance of building engagement in your brand, at the same time building discovery in your brand. The combination of these 3 things, the discoverability, the perception, and engagement, these are the 3 things when working together builds the credibility that you need for people to find you. That's where discoverability is. And when they find you, and when they find out more information and they read more about you, that's where they build a certain perception towards your brand, thinking that, hey, this brand is not bad. Same like Daniel Wellington. This watch actually looks great. In the beginning, I've just heard of them, but right now, yeah, I think I can see myself wearing it. And then when Oxwhite comes and says, oh yeah, I think that makes sense. Why do I need to spend like 300 ringgit buying a good white shirt when I can just spend 99 ringgit of getting an equally good one, or if not even more superior? These are perceptions curated by brand. And when you discover them with the right perception, that's where you start building trust. That's where you start looking at, oh, okay, I can trust this brand because it has created that perception in your minds. And then when the brand starts engaging with you, when it starts putting out the right message, when it speaks to you, when the brand tags you, mentions you, replies to you, which is what both Daniel Wellington and Oxwhite does exceedingly well, right? If you look at what CK and his team is doing is Oxwhite, their community building mechanism is amazing. CK takes time replying to messages, personally engaging with the customers. Why? Because he knows while building credibility, he needs to show his face. He cannot just hide behind a logo, reply as though there's a robot speaking. He adds personality to the brand. And this helps in conversion. Customers want to be engaged. Whether it's a physical product, whether it's a digital product, you're selling B2B, B2C, they want to be engaged. They don't want to be reading or looking like a newscaster, like watching the news. They don't like that. They want people to relate to them. They want people to showcase how their brand is able to resonate with their current problem. And ultimately, you need to be familiar with your audience as well. So combination of these three things, that is the three things I want to leave with you today, right? Let's go through one by one. Let's talk about discoverability. If you are not discoverable digitally, you typically don't exist. Now, some people like to challenge me, they'll say, hey, Jen, why do I need to be discoverable these days? Everybody is on social media. As long you post more enough, you are there, you buy more ads, people will know about you. But here's the thing. There are two groups of consumers. One group of consumers, they are completely clueless. By the way, this is all of us. Why I say we are completely clueless, because think about the last time you turned on Facebook or Instagram. Hopefully none of you are doing that right now. But if you are, and if you can recall that last time you're doing it, you probably did it without any intention. You are not looking for brand to buy. You are not looking for particular product. Basically, you are just browsing mindlessly, right? You're just discovering things. That's one group of customer. There's another group of customers that when they go on social media or when they go on the internet in general, they have a very clear focus. They say that, oh, I'm planning to renovate my house. Therefore, I'm looking for relevant services. Well, I'm planning to clean my house before Chinese New Year. Can I look for somebody that is reliable to come in? Oh, I'm planning to buy a new car. I'm planning to buy a new phone. I'm planning to play this new game. Where do I go and look for some of these things? So two different mindsets of people here. And imagine if you are not discoverable and you're relying on just ads putting out, trying to just catch people's attention, you are just trying to appeal to the first group of people that may not be ready to buy. What you are interested in, or what you should be interested in as a company, is the second group of customers, where they have some sort of an idea and they have the intention to buy, and you are showing up at so-called the right time, right place, right moment. And the only way that you can do that is to actually take time to understand your audience. To understand your audience, there are 5 keys. Many times when we talk about audience profiling, many people default to the idea of just having good demographic information, meaning that you just need to know their age, know their gender, know where they stay, know their salary, know their profession is good enough. No, it's not enough. Definitely not enough. On digital marketing, there are 5 elements, and demographic information is just one out of the 5. You also need to know their interests. What are they interested right now? And their interests will change. Let me tell you that. Because we follow trends. Is it K-pop right now? Is it the Japanese anime? Is it the Western side of things? Is it the European side of things? Is it cars right now? Is it politics right now? Is it COVID right now? Is it a particular game that people are playing right now? Is it a particular news, a particular platform? What are their interests? List them down, Don't be afraid to let it be a long list. You need to know who you're speaking to. Then comes their behavior as a third point. You need to know how are they behaving digitally. What platforms are they spending most times on? What media are they consuming? Do they like certain brands more than the rest? Do they like certain channels? Do they prefer that? Anyway, what is it that is influencing them? Is it their parents? Is it their friends? Do they have a FOMO mindset? What actually changes their perspective? Is it an influencer? Is it a KOL? Is it an article? Is it a news site? Is it a forum? What is it? And last but not least, what kind of a life are they living? What motivates them? What gives them pain? What is their frustration right now? If you can clearly identify these 5 things, that's how you're able to build a brand and create content that's able to engage them. Now, a question came from Shirley in the chat saying that how do I measure the effects of social media to your brand? To be honest, there's no one way to measure success. Seriously, there's no one way. Don't let anybody con you to it. Because I tell you upfront, every posting that you're going to do and whatever activity you plan to do on social media really depends on what you are planning to achieve as a business outcome. Everybody's business expectation and outcome from social media is different. Therefore, there's no one way of measuring its success. Because if your intention today by posting, let's say, a selfie of yourself, if your intention today is self-gratification and assurance from other people, then that would be your measure. How many people say, oh, Jan, you look so great today. Wow, I got 100 people tell me that. That would be my measure. But if today I'm posting to say I want sales, I don't care how many people like, I don't care how many people share, but I want sales, then conversion numbers becomes your measure of success. But if you're saying that I want awareness, I want a lot of people to just be seeing what I'm posting, then it could be your number of followers, it could be the reach that you're enjoying, it could be how much money you're spending, equivalent whether you are actually getting the number of eyeballs coming in. So for every business objective, it functions differently. And to make things even more complicated, it's not only your business objectives, it's also these 5 things that we just spoke about. How would your target audience actually engage with you? A common mistake is that many people think that anybody is their audience, 18 to 55 years old. That's crazy. So many different phases of life that they're going through in 18 to 55. You cannot target everyone. The more focus you have, the better your content is, the better the higher rate of conversion that you actually get out of this. And when we talk about brand identity, so right now you're talking about the discoverability, right? So we're still on the first point, we're talking about the importance of you identifying your audience. But number 2, the second piece of the puzzle here is that you as a brand need to determine what you represent as well. Meaning that what kind of a persona do you have? What kind of personality your brand is trying to carry? There are 8 different personas here. I wouldn't go through every one of them in detail. You can probably sort of guess some of the personas. But what I'm trying to say here is that as you take a role, one of these roles, and you represent your brand on social media, you need to find which of these roles that is able to resonate and relate best to the target audience, the 5 keys that we looked about earlier, because this will help you determine the type of language you're using. And I'm not talking about English, Malay, Chinese, Tamil, and that kind of stuff, right? I'm talking about the conversational style, the tone of voice, the words that you use, the platforms that you're on. That should also tie into the persona that you would want to represent. A question also came in by Samantha in the chats asking if I've come across any dilemma on which branding you want people to know you as. To be honest, that is one of the biggest and the toughest question when it comes to brand. But the starting point to answer the question is always the same. And the 3 steps, I didn't plan to share this, but since you asked, I'll tell you these 3 steps. The first step was what we spoke about earlier. Before even thinking about what do you want people to know you as, you need to first find out who are you trying to speak to. Are you talking about your peers? Are you talking about people older than you? Are you talking about the retirees? Are you talking about mothers? Are you talking about kids? Are you talking about executives? Are you talking to students? Are you talking about the people that just got married, they have their firstborn? Are you talking to people that just got their divorce? Who are they? You need to know, and you do that using the 5 keys. Number 2, when we come to the persona wheel, you want to first ask yourself, in your current state, your current personality, your current persona, who are you? Looking at these 8 different types of persona, which one do you fall under? Are you the fun, entertaining, humorous type? Or are you the more lifestyle, you like to share what you're doing on a daily basis? Are you a motivational speaker type? Are you somebody that likes to analyze things, write articles, being an expert of a particular domain, expertise or interest? What are you? That's your second step. Your third step is to ask yourself an important question of whether your second step relates to your target audience. If it's not, then choose again. What do you need to change to relate to your target audience? Because branding is not about you. Good branding on digital, like I mentioned, right from the top, is to create a perception that you understand your target audience. So what is it? How can you relate to them? These 3 steps get you there. So that's the first point, discoverability, right? By doing these 2 simple steps, right now, you should be better in terms of where you want your customers to discover you. The second point comes down to the engagement, the perception side of things. How do you create a perception? How do you let people think that you know them? Deliver value. And you do it, again, by a very simple framework that you can see on screen right now, where you start off by thinking about your brand message. What are your key USPs, your unique selling propositions? What do you have? List it down, right? So if you say that, oh, we are 24/7, we are fast, we are cheaper than our competitors, we have a bigger team, we have a local team that can support, we have a 30-day money-back guarantee, we give more for the same price, we have better quality, we source it responsibly. Whatever it is, list down the brand message. Now, the common mistake here is people tend to list down their brand message. Nobody has problems with this. Usually, all brands know what they want to talk about. But the challenge here is that they always jump straight to the last bit, which is here, the core content. They jump straight to the end. So they immediately start thinking, oh, okay, we have 30-day money-back guarantee. Let's create a content that's money-back guarantee. Oh, we are a local brand, support Malaysian brand. Let's write content about it. Just say, oh, we are Malaysian 100%. Please support us. I'm sure you've seen many content like that. And that kind of content usually don't resonate. It sounds as though you're just putting up a poster telling people that, hey, come. See, I'm Malaysian made. Whatever your USP is. Because they miss out the center section. The center section brings back what we have identified in the earlier part with the 5 keys. So nothing new here, but you look at the question right at the center over here. Customers want to know, how does this brand message relate to me? So what? You are 30-day money-back guarantee, but are you using the right language as you speak to me? As within a demographic? Are you responding to me in a certain interest? What can I do with this 30-day money-back guarantee? Does it even help me? What does it mean? Does it go inside with my lifestyle? Is it because I have a frustration that every time I buy something, it's wrong, and therefore this 30-day money-back guarantee can help me have a peace of mind? You want to break down the value, the true value that you're able to offer, minus the technicalities, minus the jargon, make it simple for your customers to understand. Once you are able to answer this question, then only start thinking about your content. Never ever be tempted to jump from one point here to here. Don't. Never do that. Never be tempted. No matter how stressful you are, go through these 3 steps. Always put your customers at the center of your content. The last section of the triangle. So we've covered discoverability, we've covered the perception bit. Let's talk about engagement right now before I close. A good brand knows how to engage its customers, and engagement is not something where you sit down and then wait for people to engage with you. It does not happen that way. You can't go to a networking event wanting to meet new people, but just you sitting at a corner or standing at a buffet table waiting for people to come and talk to you. It does not work that way. For engagement to take place, it needs to happen both ways. You need to start engaging first. And therefore, I've created this rule called the 1-10-20 engagement rule. Now, this engagement rule is a method for you to remember, and hopefully you're able to practice it, because by doing so, what you're trying to do is that you're actually setting aside time to engage your customers on a daily basis. What does this 1-10-20 rule stand for? Simple. The 1 stands for original content. Every day, 1 new content. Every day. And it has to be original, meaning that you cannot just copy and paste from somebody or just share a link, share an article, full stop. No. 1 original content every day. Every day, connect with 10 new people. It could be a potential partner. It could be a top selling client, a top buying customer. It could be a prospect that you're connecting with. It could be somebody that you plan to collaborate with. It could be an influencer, whoever that may be. Create 10 new connections on a daily basis. And last but not least, the 20 talks about you leaving comments, leaving replies, actually going to their profile, see what they post, repost their posts, get in touch with them, thank them, ask them for feedback. 1-10-20. And you do this daily. Sounds like a pain. To be honest, it is. But let me tell you, the effects are also great. Because think about the time where you bought something online and you tagged them on Instagram story and the brand actually reposted you, or the brand reached out to you to say thank you. Remember that short emotion that you felt that said, hey, okay, not bad. This brand is listening to me. Hey, this brand actually reached out. This brand actually said thank you. It may not be much. It could just be thank you for supporting us. It could just be a reshare. But it means a lot to the consumer because it shows that, hey, somehow they are thankful. They are paying attention to somebody or nobody like me. 1-10-20, do it daily. For some of you here, you may be thinking, how can you connect? How can you do this engagement? It sounds like a pain. I don't really know how to do it. Let me just give you some quick examples before I wrap up. One is that use tag them, all right? Just tag them. As you know that if you have certain customers you like to highlight, there are certain other brands that you can collaborate with, other notable people within the industry, use this opportunity to mention and tag them. In your postings, in your stories, in your comments, you want to make mention to them, and always think about this particular question when you mention them. Don't spam them, right? As you mention them, ask yourself, how can I help this person as I mention them? Or how can I benefit or help my target audience as I mention some of these brands? So maybe you're compiling the top 10 places to go in Malaysia. Instead of just listing them down, you're tagging 10 brands. So not only you're trying to collaborate or you're trying to make friends with these 10 other brands, you're actually using this opportunity to also help your real customers, your target audience you're looking at. So that's one way. Tagging and mentioning, it works very, very well. Other than that, you also want to participate in groups. Groups are a huge thing right now. Groups are great in engagement and also growing your awareness. Go on Facebook, go on Telegram, go on Clubhouse. Find groups that relates to your brand. Join them, but don't go into spam. Instead, go into make yourself known by engaging with other people, posting comments, sharing valuable content, because when people see that you're active and you're actually adding value to their lives, naturally, you build curiosity. And with that, people will want to find out more from you. So it's a soft sell method. Don't just go in and just put up content trying to convince people to buy. And last but not least, the easiest way to build your brand, the fastest way to build a brand is to start collaborating with other experts within the industry. Find who that you can share your network with. Don't be stingy, all right? It's a huge world digitally, and because of this COVID season, many people are more willing to share, more people are willing to work with one another, and you want to tap into this opportunity. So you find people that you can collaborate with, tap into the network, see how with this collaboration you can add even more value to your target audience. With that said, before I open the time for questions, let me just leave with you this one last thought. The whole idea of creating brand engagement, yes, surely it's you want sales, you want leads, you want to grow a company, you want to be known, sure. That's a key aspect to branding as well, in which we have covered. But on the digital world, you also need to realize that your brand is actually a certain conduit for attention. There's so many contents that surrounds us on a daily basis across all the different channels. Every brand is trying to talk to the same target audience. But it's only the few brands that has a very clear target audience. They know what they're talking about. They have a very clear persona and a brand message they want to deliver. These are the brands that is creating a perception, they're engaging it correctly, that actually stands out. And that's the state that you want to be. You want your brand, you want your company, you want your position to be that conduit, so that when people look at you, they'll know that, hey, I can actually relate to this guy. I can actually relate to this brand. I want to connect with them, I want to follow them, I want to subscribe to them, and eventually become their customer. With that said, that's all I have to share with you this evening. Thank you so much for staying through. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to take them right now. For those of you who want to connect with me, feel free to do so on LinkedIn or Instagram. I'll be more than happy to do so. Thank you so much. Questions? Bring it on. Don't be shy.
Thanks, Jan. There's two questions. I think you answered one of it from Samantha, but how about the one from Shirley? How do I measure the effects of social media on my brand?
Oh,
Yeah,
I
he has
answered
answered that.
Oh, you answered that. All right. All right, there's another one from Joshua. How do you come up with contents every day?
That's a very good question. The trick is that you don't come up with content every day. Sounds weird, right? But let me tell you this. You don't come up with contents every day because you create content for every day in one day. That's the trick to it. When you look at content creators around the world, they don't force themselves in the state that they have to post content. This means that it's not a day when I wake up, okay, today is a Saturday, it's soon to be 5 p.m. I need to post something by 5 p.m. If not, I will miss out on this golden time. What should I post? And then I start thinking. It's not about that. What content creators do is that they set aside time in their schedule and say, okay, I'm going to create 30 pieces of content for the one whole month. That's what content creators do. That's why they have time to do all these things that I've shared with you just now, by having a clear idea of their audience and then going through the three-step process, right? Identifying the message, trying to answer the question of how can this message be relevant to my target audience. They start breaking it down and then ultimately start writing their actual content in itself. So it does not happen on a daily basis. It will be crazy. It actually helps if you do it at one go. And the rule of thumb, or what is recommended, is always to plan a month in ahead. If a month is too long, do it weekly. But that process would definitely help you in scheduling on a daily basis rather than working on it every single day. Even I don't do that. It's insane. Everything is pre-planned. That helps you have better focus. Hope that answers your question.
Very well
Oh, there's another question from Wenjun. A few more. Yeah, they're all coming in. Great. I'll try to take as many as I can, right, within the remaining time. Wenjun's question on data collection and analysis, right? Is there any concern on data privacy laws? Yes, obviously. GDPR is a real thing. PDPA is also a real thing as well. But that is why when you sign up to certain pages and they ask you to have the checkbox, right? Do you accept the terms and condition? Do you adhere to PDPR or even a GDPR and things like that? We usually, as consumers, we willingly sacrifice our data for convenience. If you are very afraid of your privacy being breached, then as a consumer, you shouldn't do that. But from a brand perspective, it's actually possible. As long as you have consent, you are able to do whatever you want. So if you are a brand and you're thinking of collecting data, make sure you have all these terms listed out very clearly so that if anything happens, you as a brand is able to defend yourself. You're able to show proof that your customers have accepted the terms and conditions before you do anything funny with them. Problem only starts is when you don't declare the intentions of collecting data. If you are that, then the consumers can actually take you for legal action, and you definitely don't want to fall into that particular scenario. Question from Sharon. I think this is more from my background. You're from an IT background. Did you spend a lot of time building up technical knowledge? I like this question simply because I don't get to share a lot about this. So thank you for asking. Yes, I needed to learn more technical knowledge in other industries. That's for sure. But here's how I did it. The thing is that although I function in different industries, I always carry similar skill sets and expertise with me. So what I'll do is that if you can imagine, let's say I start off with this particular circle. Let's say this circle represents my current skill and my current expertise and current knowledge. When I venture into other industries, I don't put this aside and jump into a different circle. I don't. What I do is that I'll try to find how much I can expand this circle just enough for me to cope within this new industry. I try to fit it in. And as I slowly fit myself in, I'll slowly expand the circle again. And then in the future, if I jump to another industry, it's the same circle. I try to put on it, and then I slowly expand again. So in this way, what I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to look for synergy between my skill sets, expertise, and knowledge, and to see how I can tie into the industries that I am interested in. So for one example is that my second venture was a fashion business. Now, being an IT programmer, fashion is like a two entirely different world. But as I approach fashion, I approach it in a perspective of I want to help fashion companies automate certain part of their business. So I wasn't going to fashion designing. I went into fashion automation and technology. From there, I picked up what the fashion world can do, and then I expanded it to say right now, I want to build a fashion-based community of online fashion business owners. I'm not going to target offline, only online entrepreneurs in the fashion industry. And that's how I built. So it comes down to synergy between skill sets and not just jumping into a totally different pool or totally different world altogether. I don't think that is a wise usage of skills, abilities, and time. So I always believe in synergy in skill sets and knowledge. All right, the next question. Yeah, sorry, Raj, go ahead.
No, you want me to read it for you?
Yeah. That's fine. You can pick up questions for me if that helps.
From Rubinesh, he asked, creating an original content daily has been an issue for me. So is it okay to reuse content? Will there be a negative effect on my page?
Yeah, no, you should not reuse content at all. You shouldn't. Now, think about it as a consumer perspective, right? All this content you are creating is not for yourself. It's for consumers. And if a consumer sees a content repetitively, what do you think as a consumer? Don't you think it's spam? Don't you think it's boring? Don't you think that this is a page you probably don't want to follow anymore? The answer is probably yes. The thing here about content is that you always want to excite the consumer. You want to show the consumer you're at the forefront of things. You're thinking about them. You're always adding value. You're talking about different things that relates to them, that keeps them excited. Therefore, don't reuse content. But the second reason here as well, reusing content usually also has a negative impact in the algorithm that determines whether your postings reach will go far or not. Because reusing content basically means you're plagiarizing. Basically, you're just copy and pasting. Basically, you're adding something that has already been posted before. Contents like that typically don't go far organically on social media platforms. So don't. Original content is important. To be very honest, if you were to have followed the 3-step process that I shared with you just now of creating, listing down your message, figuring out how does this message relate to your audience, and then creating your core content, technically, you should have unlimited content, because one message could have been broken down to 10 other different ways of relating to your customers. And at the same time, each of these relevance could have been broken down into different types of content. Naturally, you shouldn't run out of content. You only run out of content when you exhaust yourself of your core message, in which it shouldn't happen if you're actually running a business.
But on the content, Jen, what if someone can't write a content? That means they know the business, they know the product, but they just are not a person who write. You know? I used to be like that, and I'm still getting there, still struggling with contents. Right? But I know the need to have a content, so I sit down and force myself and get a content, right? But how to be like spontaneously and just come up with contents? Or I tell myself I like to create content. You know, how is that? Is that a habit you create, or is it a skill that you learn? What is that?
It's a combination of two things. It's a skill, it's a habit, and it's a process, right? So these three things are what every content creator goes through. Whether you think you're creative or not, you actually go through these three things. Why I say it's a process is because you cannot be, not everybody is gifted with this spontaneity that you just spoke about, where I can just wake up this morning and I think of, wow, this is a great post, I can start posting it right now. Not many people have that. Even the most creative songwriters or movie writers wouldn't have this kind of epiphany on a daily basis. So what happens is that there's always a process of you putting yourself through to start thinking about what are the potential topics you can write about. That's why the 3-step process that I just shared earlier is supposed to walk you through that. You start thinking about your business first. So you start listing down everything, right? And then after that, you move into what would your target audience like to hear. So you start breaking down from just a USP that's very business, very one-track minded. Right now, you're trying to relate it into how your customers would like to hear it. And then from there, you try to expand each of these points even more into the type of content that you would like. So in today's terms, content does not need to be written. Content could be recorded in the form of voice. That works too in a podcast. Many people stream podcasts. Or it could be a form of a video recording. It could be a form in short form video, just 15 seconds in your stories daily. That could be content. It could be a 1-minute video that you post it up on Facebook, and you don't need good equipment. Everybody is okay with just handphone recording content these days. Or if you're good at dancing, dance and put something on TikTok to entertain, that works as well. So content today comes in various shapes and sizes. In fact, there are about 30 categories of content, from short form, long form, live stream, webinars, photos, carousel, infographics, articles, case studies, reports, statistics. All these are content types. So it doesn't necessarily need to be photo and caption. You just need to figure out what is your strength, which is the one that is the lowest barrier of entry. Get that started first. That's why it turns into habit, which is what I said. There's also one of the aspects of content creation. So there's a process in place, there's the skill in creating them, but ultimately there's also some sort of a habit in between. But all in all, when it comes to content, you need to allocate time to create content. Sit down for an hour, go through this process. Usually in that 1 hour, you at least have 2 or 3 content dished out. At least you will have an idea of what to post. But the problem is every time we just want content to be written in just 5-10 minutes. We open up Facebook, we look at a post, and then we start looking at the blinking cursor and we attempt to create something. It doesn't happen that way. I create content in Microsoft Excel. I open a spreadsheet, so I'm platform agnostic. I start going through the process myself, and then at the end I ask myself, for this message, is it more suitable for LinkedIn? Is it more suitable for Instagram? Is it suitable in a video format or an article format? And then I map myself towards that way. And if all things fail, then I ask myself, What if I don't create content? What if I get content from somebody else? Can I collaborate? So if I know, Raj, you're good at certain things, can I just get you on board and I interview you and I've put your content as my content? Sure, why not? But if all things fail, somehow you still can't create on your own, somehow all your friends don't want to collaborate with you, you have nobody to help you, then just hire somebody to do it for you. An intern, a graphic designer, a copywriter, a content creator. There are plenty these days. So there is actually a lot of opportunities to create content.
I think I'll interview you and put the content, Jen. Yeah.
Sure, we can talk after this.
All right. There's a question earlier I saw. Okay, what's a suitable time to post a content in order to get a good reach?
Sure. So while there are some generic guidelines to posting times, but this, like I said, is generic. It shouldn't be taken as a rule because at the end of the day, all of us have different follower base and we are all targeting relatively different target audiences. So the best timing is equivalent to how much of the behavior you know of your target audience. Remember, behavior is one of the 5 keys to understanding your digital audience. So if you're targeting the millennials or you're targeting the Gen Z, you need to ask yourself or go look for research papers. What time are the Gen Zs active on? If you're targeting the retirees, what time do they go on their social media platforms? What platforms do they go on in this time, right? Then that would determine your posting times as well. That's one way. Second way is to look into your data, look into your analytics. If you already have a brand going, you've been posting, the best way is to just look at your data and see which days have your highest engagement, and then those are your best times. The third one is what I said just now, the generic rule. So what is a generic rule? Contrary to popular belief, weekends are bad times to post for brands. Usually, the reach on weekends are typically lower, especially on Sundays. If you're a brand, and depending on the type of content, if you are talking about educational content typically do better on a Tuesday and a Wednesday. If you're talking about something that's more fun, light-hearted, typically it does well on a Monday and a Friday. So again, I say this with some salt on it, a lot of salt on it, in fact, because it really depends on a lot of factors. Your audience, the platform, your time zone. That could also make a difference how big your audience is. If you're looking at international, your time zone will also tweak. And last but not least, you're also looking at the type of content that you're producing, because different people prefer consuming certain type of content at different times of the day, right? So you need to figure it out, do some experiments, always look at your data. That will give you a better gauge.
How about the length of the content, Jen?
Great question, Raj. The length of the content is determined by the platform itself. So for example, Facebook typically don't like too long of a content. We are talking about 300 characters up to 500 max characters. That's what Facebook typically sticks to. Within Instagram itself, people also don't go too long. People are looking about 200, 250 characters. That's already considered relatively long for Instagram. On LinkedIn, people go up to 1,000 characters and is acceptable. If you are familiar with WeChat goes up to 1,000 words, not characters, and people still spend time on it. So on different channels, on different platforms, content length and duration is very, very, very different. So that is something that you can also look up on Google, because sometimes these numbers and these preferences change, and they change quite often, to be honest. At the same time, it also again comes down to the media itself. So let's say if you're writing an article and you've intended for it to be an article and you know an article works for your target audience, then sure, an article has to have a certain length, right? So you're talking about 200, 300 words, 400 words maybe. But if you are saying that no, this is not an article, this is an infographic, it's supposed to be picture driven, then don't type such a long text. 1, 2 sentences and then put your pictures into it, done. So length here is also a variable. You need to look at the platform. You also need to look at your purpose and the media type.
All right. Shashvini says, talking about content, she said she reminded her about NAS Daily.
Mm.
And she's saying he must be putting a lot of efforts in planning such contents before executing it. Yeah, I have to agree with her. I
For
used to be a
sure,
follower
for sure.
with Nas Daily, because it's different new knowledge and new information. Is that approach good for a brand?
It is. It is. Educational, because we're talking about content categories, right? This is something I didn't cover in this talk because it would take very long to just look at content categories alone. You talk about content categories, there's always education, there's promotional, there is the lifestyle approach. There's so many different categories to it. And educational is one that is very sought after, and very sought after not just now, but over the years. People always like to learn new things. You look at TikTok by itself, right? Or beneath all the entertainment, you actually learn quite a lot of things on TikTok. I learned a lot of new things on TikTok, like how to fix certain things at home or how to flip a pancake. That's what I saw, I said, wow, I never knew there's a different way of flipping a pancake, or how do you fix certain stuff, or how do you dress up. Even platforms like TikTok are already opening up to education. So education is a great area to position yourself in, especially if you are a brand trying to build certain reputation, to say that if you want to build, let's say, a perception that you are an industry leader, you're trying to build a perception that you know your stuff, you are not just another brand, then education is a great way, because education has always been equal to authority, right? When people see that you are able to give insights, share, and you speak sense, that's where authority comes in. So that is also why Nas Daily did very well. Not only is he sharing new information, he's putting in some level of entertainment into it. The way he edits his videos makes it very interesting. And he has a key unique selling proposition here, if you remember. It's always 60 minutes. Sorry, 60 seconds, right? It's a 1 minute
Yes,
video.
1 minute.
That's 1 minute, exactly. 60 seconds. Always, that's 1 minute. That was his USP. And that was his message, right? So that is how he actually put in this entire content creation method together.
All right, so let's move on. We have a few more, I think, remarks there. Uh, so, Jen, thank you very much. Thank you. Whatever you have said is either what we tried to do or what we are doing, but most of us are banging our head to the wall and thinking why it's not working. All right. Coincidentally, I had a conversation with my colleagues 2 days ago, yesterday. Right, I was saying that whatever the social media marketing we did for our brand for the past 6 months, it's not working. The likes are good, the likes are very proud, but it's not converting. Right, so whatever you have shared today is just perfect. Now we have to rethink again. Right, so digitalization is something we were already coming into, and thanks to COVID we had to accelerate that for many. Right, like even I'm in the training business. Right, so I saw a lot of my colleagues were just jumping into digital. Everything was going digital training, digital. Why? The answer was everyone is in digital, so we should go digital. Right, so many didn't have a proper plan. So whatever you have shared with us is true. It's true, we should plan, especially your 5 elements. Right, the 5 elements to know. And persona wheel. Right, that's very wonderful. And that one term I like that you said, brands wants you to see what they want you to see, which is true, which is very, very true. We cannot replicate another brand to think that is going to work for us. All right, that's very true what you said. All right, so in closing, thank you very much. But before we go, I would like to ask you a question. All right, because this today's subject is personal branding. Right, who is your branding guru? I mean, personally, this guy or this person, this lady or this brand is a role model for you or inspires you, push you to go forward. Who's that?
Well, you put out a lot of good keywords over there. To be honest, there's no one guiding brand or person that has always been the one leading me. But I've always looked up to how Apple does in their brand. Why I say that is not because of how their design looks like or the technology or whether I'm an Apple fanboy. I like it to the extent, let me tell you how crazy I am, right? I like it to the extent where I will rewatch their keynotes even from the earlier days when Steve Jobs were around, and I'll rewatch it multiple times. And as I watch it, I actually take notes. So some people ask me, you must be crazy. What's there to take note? Basically, he's up there to sell the iPad, sell the iPhone, right? What is there? What notes are there to take? If you actually watch closely, right, the choice of words that Apple uses to describe a particular product is very intentional. There is no wastage of words in describing how the surface of the iPhone feels like, how glass and plastic is differentiated in the touch of your hands, how the tactile description, and how he portrays himself even on stage, how he presents certain things when I don't know whether any of you actually watched this keynote where he first presented the first MacBook Air, where he took it out of an envelope. To me, it's like, which computer brand promoted a laptop in such a way? And then when he actually launched the iPod mini, this was many years ago, right? He went on stage wearing his signature blue jeans. And you know, with all the jeans, we have this small little compartment where we used to put coins. But to be honest, until today, we don't know what's that for, right? So we use it as a coin compartment. We call it a coin compartment. He went on stage, he started talking about this coin compartment, and he said that he finally designed a use for it. And then from in it, he pulled out the iPod mini. It was like, what on earth just happened? You know, so the way he brought a technical message, he could have just went on, right? Like how all the other the brands out there say, we have invented the smallest MP3 player. That's what all the brands talk about. But he went in, he knew that was his message. And when he came to the second step of how can I relate to the audience, he looked at his pants and said, this is how you relate to it. Everybody has a pair of jeans. They don't know what to do with this. I'm going to give them a purpose in that hole in their jeans. And that was his core content. And with that, Apple has always been my number one go-to when it talks about branding, when it comes to positioning, when it comes to communications. I think that they are in a class of its own.
I have to agree with you. I always talk about their different advertising. You know, remember they came up with that photograph advertisement. This photo is taken by, you know, they don't show the phone, they just tell you. Fantastic. I agree with you. All right. By the way, the compartment is for lighter. Those days, lighters were square.
I see.
Before
Okay.
the
All
long
right.
cricket lighters came. Yeah, those days are lumberjack days. Yeah. Yeah. So Steve Jobs don't smoke, so he didn't know. All right. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, guys, but RYLA participants are Rotarians. Let's put our hands together for this wonderful session by Jan Wong. Thank you, Jan Wong. Thank you very much. I'm sure the participants have learned a lot. Not only the participant, we learned a lot too. Thank you very much. If you can stay with us, that'd be wonderful. Till the end. Thank you. Thank you. See you again. Before that, sorry, Jen, this is the certificate of appreciation that we present to you. We will be mailing you the hard copy soon. Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you so much.